Edward Butch O'Hare. Now, what comes to mind when you hear the name O'Hare? To me, when I hear O'Hare, I think of Chicago O'Hare International Airport, and it was named in honor of him. So, who is Edward Butch O'Hare? Let's start at the beginning. Born March 13th, 1914, in St. Louis, Missouri. He was the only son of three children of E.J. O'Hare and Selma Loth. So at the tender age of 13, his parents enrolled him and sent him to the Western Military Academy, where he excelled in marksmanship. And then in 1922, he was appointed to the Naval Academy. So prior to being appointed to the Naval Academy, his father, E.J. O'Hare, had to end some ties, business ties, with the notorious crime boss, Al Capone. So his father is pretty interesting for that relationship because his father was the man who put Al Capone in prison for tax evasion. So that's just like a little side history of his family. After graduating from the Naval Academy and pilot school, he reported to his first command, which was with the VF 3 squadron, who was on board the USS Saratoga at the time. So from there, that's where he met John Thatch, which was the ship's executive officer, or the XO. From there, John Thatch saw the potential in O'Hare and began mentoring him. He became his mentor. He taught him both fighter tactics and gunnery, which ultimately led O'Hare to earn his gunnery excellence ribbon. So, who's John Thatch? John Thatch was the inventor of the Thatch weave. It is where a pair of aircrafts combat maneuver that became a famous fighter plane tactic during World War II. After the disastrous bombing of Pearl Harbor in 1941, O'Hare was later deployed to the USS Lexington with his VF 3 squadron to the Pacific. While on patrol, the USS Lexington received radar signals from enemy aircrafts approaching. So, as a protective measure, the ship launched a few aircrafts on board in response, but only two were left to protect the ship. That was Lieutenant O'Hare's and his wingman, Lieutenant DeVille. According to Lemeroux's article, O'Hare single handedly downed 5 Japanese bombers, attacking them until he ran out of ammo. So, as a result of this engagement, which was reported to be just 6 minutes, O'Hare had ultimately saved the USS Lexington from severe damages and or fatal destruction. And according to the Chicago Tribune, Richard C. Long had stated that Lieutenant O'Hare's actions may have altered the course of the war in the Pacific. The damage that the carrier, USS Lexington, wouldn't have been able to take part in the Battle of the Coral Sea 2 months later. After this event, Lieutenant O'Hare was sent back home by the Navy to receive the Medal of Honor, which made him the first naval recipient by President Roosevelt. Not only did he was receiving this very high and rewarding award, he was also named America's first ace pilot. earning that title, it kind of set the bar higher and the standard a lot higher for the rest of the pilots, because they want to be become that. They want to be the top of their game. They want to be the ace pilot. So again, by earning that title, he basically just raised the bar for the aviation community. Unfortunately, almost a year later after receiving that award, O'Hare did die in combat doing what he loves to do, which is being a pilot, protecting our freedom and values. And also, unfortunately, that was one of the darkest time in American history, in world history. World War II was tragic, and a few men had rose beyond to protect our values, our beliefs, our freedom. And unfortunately, again, Edward Butch O'Hare was not an exception to that. He sacrificed his life in combat. And although it's such a sad story that he didn't get to see the results of the war at the end, he did at least leave his legacy in our country's history. And in honor of that, the city of Chicago, although he's not from Chicago, but did live in Chicago for a good portion of his life, the city did rename the airport Chicago's O'Hare International Airport and the O'Hare Field in his honor.